All right, Richard, welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Goodfellas, where we talk about the top 30 wide receivers for Week 7. But before we get started, we always like to kind of review how you did for Week 6. So can you give us a nice little update?
Yeah, we had 18 of 30, which is not bad, considering how crazy every week seems to be when it comes to receivers, right? How everything changes so quickly. Like this week, for example, Davante Adams didn't make the top 30. Tyreek Hill didn't make the top 30. CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans. So you have some big names that weren't even in the top 30. It's crazy, but you know what? We're going to try to get into the 20s. We got 18 of 30. It seems like every week we're in the high teens. We want to get into those 20s.
All right, so let's get started for the top 30 wide receivers for Week 7. The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Number 1, here's a guy that didn't make the top 30, but we think he's going to rebound in a big way. Davante Adams at Houston. Good matchup. You know Aaron Rodgers has an ego. Right? He's gonna come out and he's gonna make a statement this week. Number 2, Julio Jones, home against Detroit. We didn't have him last week. We didn't trust him. We didn't think he was gonna play again. He played, had a big game. This week we got him at 2. Number 3, DK Metcalf at Arizona. Seattle, stud, Russell Wilson. And number 4, we have DeAndre Hopkins, home against Seattle. Again, we think that's going to be this week's shootout. Seattle, the big shootout. Seattle, Arizona. Ryan, what do you have on DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, what a matchup does he have? Hasn't really done much this season, but thank goodness they're home versus Seattle, which is the ranked 32nd against the pass. So if there's a week that you want to see DeAndre Hopkins return to his 2019 self, this is the week. We expect him to do very well.
Number 5, Calvin Ridley, home against Detroit. Good matchup, and we think Matty Ice is going to do well with Jones and Ridley this week, both healthy. Number 6, Kenny Golladay at Atlanta. We know, that Atlanta defense has been decimated, especially the secondary, decimated by injuries. Kenny Golladay is getting back into a groove. We like him. Number 7, Tyreek Hill at Denver. Tyreek Hill scored 2 points this week. That inconsistency kind of frustrates owners, but on any given week, Tyreek Hill can go off. And so we're going to continue to keep him in our top 10. And number 8, Stefon Diggs at the Jets. Good matchup, but is Buffalo going to need to pass that much to keep up with Flacco and the Jets? Or I'm sorry, this time it's Darnold and the Jets. I don't know. But we have Diggs at number 8. And number 9, Will Fuller, home against Green Bay. Ryan, is Will Fuller really a top 10 fantasy option?
I know Will Fuller's your guy, so you really like him. Watson's finally coming on. He's 12th in the league in receiving yards with 455 receiving yards. He's tied for 5th with touchdowns, with 4 touchdowns. So, he's the only real complete wide receiver that Houston has. So we're going to have to roll with him. I know you can probably add a little bit amongst your guy.
Well, some people might argue Brandin Cooks is the guy in Houston, but Cooks is more like a burner. He's more the guy that, that they're looking for, over the top of the defense. But Will Fuller, like you said, you described him well as probably the most complete wide receiver in Houston. So I think he's going to be their number 1. And number 10, Tyler Lockett at Arizona. Lockett started off the year tremendously. It slowed down a bit, but it's Seattle. It's Russell Wilson. We're going to ride that train. He's at number 10. At 11, we got the return of Michael Thomas. Boom, boom, boom. Who will be home against Carolina. How healthy is he? How good is his ankle? Is it all right? Is he going to be 100%? We hope so, but we have to put him at number 11. I mean, he is, in most drafts, he was the first receiver drafted. We know what he can do when he's healthy. And number 12, Terry McLaurin, home against Dallas. McLaurin, he's starting to find the chemistry now with Kyle Allen. Had a good game yardage-wise this week, and I think the trend is going to continue. McLaurin is just a tremendous talent, and once he develops that rapport with Allen, he's going to do well. And number 13, we have Mike Evans at Las Vegas. He disappeared this week. We expect Mike Evans to at least catch a touchdown pass against Las Vegas. And number 14, Odell Beckham at Cincinnati. That Cincinnati defense, not very good. Baker Mayfield is not very good. But Odell Beckham is fantastic. So I have him at 14. Ryan?
Cincinnati's defense is ranked 22nd. And if I know this is kind of like Cleveland versus Cincinnati, two bad teams playing each other, but if Odell Beckham is going to have a chance, or fantasy owners need to get some points from him, this is the week they're going to need him to step up. If you can't step up against that Cincinnati pass defense, then it's not going to look good for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And I know what you meant. You're talking about two bad defenses. The Browns actually have a pretty good team overall. I mean, and they're definitely, they could make a playoff run, but yeah, wow. Like I've said from the beginning, from the preseason, the anchor is Baker Mayfield. He's going to anchor that team down. Boy, they're going to need to make a decision next year. And number 15, Robby Anderson at New Orleans. Robby Anderson, plenty of yardage. The question is, that they like to run a lot too, especially when McCaffrey comes back. But New Orleans, this might be a little bit of a shootout. We'll see. I think New Orleans is going to put up points. I don't know if Carolina's going to be able to keep up, but we like Robby Anderson at 15. And number 16, is his tag team partner, DJ Moore, who actually had the better week in week 6. He'll also be at New Orleans. These are two very good receivers. Teddy Bridgewater, we still don't know what we have there. We'll see what happens. At number 17, Tyler Boyd, home against Cleveland. He's got a good matchup, and Burrow's been decent. And Tyler Boyd so far has been the guy he likes to throw to. T. Higgins is starting to show up as well. You'll see him later. But right now we have Tyler Boyd at 17. At 18, the burner for the Texans, Brandin Cooks, will be home against Green Bay. Good matchup. I think this is going to be a shootout as well.
This week's shootout.
Green Bay against Houston. And Brandin Cooks and Will Fuller are going to have good games. And number 19, Chase Claypool at Tennessee. Chase he's done very well recently. Ryan, what do you have to say about the rise of Chase Claypool?
I'm surprised about him doing so well and kind of basically making Juju Smith-Schuster a ghost. Chase Claypool has 5 TDs. He's Big Ben's favorite target. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So I just feel bad for Juju Smith-Schuster and all the fantasy owners who have him.
Yeah, that's actually 5 TDs in the last 2 weeks. I think he's got 6 total. But yes, he's been remarkable. And yeah, what happened to Juju? At number 20, we have Keenan Allen, home against Jacksonville. Hey, Keenan was having back spasms, back issues. He appears to be healthy now. It's a good matchup. His health is kind of what keeps him at number 20. We'll see what happens. And another guy that we didn't have in our top 30, and it worked out for us last week, but this week we're putting him in, Chris Godwin at Las Vegas. A fantastic receiver who's had concussion issues. Is he ready to go? Is he 100%? He got warmed up last week. I think this is the week he's going to make a little bit of an impact. And number 22, Allen Robinson at the Rams. And I say it every week, I love Allen Robinson. He's the best player on that Chicago Bears offense, but the offense has been really bad in Chicago, dragging down Allen Robinson's worth. What do you have to say, Ryan?
Yeah, that Chicago offense seems a little lost. And, the Los Angeles Rams have the number 4 ranked against the pass. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And if they can't have a balanced attack, I think Allen Robinson's going to struggle.
He's still a stud. Still keeping him in my top 24. And number 23, Robert Woods, home against Chicago. Tough matchup. Woods is a good receiver, good offense. Tough matchup. And number 24, we have Travis Fulgham, home against the New York Giants. Who is this guy? He's a 2019 sixth-rounder from Old Dominion. He's become Carson Wentz's favorite target, at least the last 3 weeks. And he has TDs in consecutive games, right? And all 3 of those games, and 284 receiving yards. So while that offense isn't super explosive and Carson Wentz has his limitations, you got to put Fulgham in the top 30. He keeps producing. At number 25, CeeDee Lamb at Washington. He's still my preferred receiver in Dallas, but obviously everybody on that offense takes a big hit with Andy Dalton at the helm. Number 26, Amari Cooper at Washington. It just pains me not to have Cooper in the top 30. Again, I have my doubts about Andy Dalton and the Cowboys offense. And number 27, Jamison Crowder, home against Buffalo. You know, that offense is going to improve a tad with Sam Darnold. And we know Darnold loves Crowder. So we'll see how it does. And number 28, A.J. Brown, touchdown machine. And Tannehill's been great, but they got a tough matchup, home against Pittsburgh. That's why he's 28. And number 29, Mike Williams, who will be at Jacksonville. A great matchup. Hence, I got both Chargers top receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, in my top 30. And at number 30, T. Higgins, who will be home against Cleveland. Higgins and Boyd both have done well. Burrow has done well, fantasy-wise at least. So I'm going to include 2 Bengal receivers in my top 30 that are not A.J. Green.
All right, before we get going, I appreciate you sharing your top 30 wide receivers. I do have one question. What's up with Cooper Kupp? I didn't see him in the top 30.
He's one of those guys I was considering, toward the end. But again, it's that matchup. It's a tough matchup. Chicago, the Bears defense is good. Cooper Kupp was not in the top 30 this week. So I'm not hoping that trend continues. I just don't think he's going to score enough points to be in the top 30.
All right. And you also, I see a lot of timeshare or, however we want to call it, 2 receivers from the same team. You got Seattle, Cincinnati, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Chargers, and Cincinnati. I guess you're thinking a lot of those offenses are going to do really well.
Yeah, with a lot of those teams, it's just matchup, and then with some of them, it's just like talent. Again, like it would pain me not to have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper in my top 30. Again, I don't know if that offense is going to be good enough to have 2 guys in the top 30, but they're just so talented. So I tend to always be a kind of guy that favors talent over matchups. Hence, that's how my ranking goes. And so far, it's done very well for me when it comes to quarterbacks and running backs. For receivers and tight ends, but I think it's very tough to predict. But don't get me wrong, we've done well. We just haven't been exceptional when it comes to receivers and tight ends.
All right, well, let's be exceptional this week. So thanks for coming on here.
I think we are.
Good. Thanks for coming on here and sharing your top 30 wide receivers. Good luck in fantasy football, and we hope you have a good week.